I'm seeing more and more XRP chart analysts doubling down, claiming XRP is tightly wound and primed for its next big leap to new all-time highs. Of course, there are those who think we might need a bit more patience, maybe just a few more weeks, but even they agree we're right on the edge of something major. So whether it's today, tomorrow, next week, or next month, the consensus is clear. We're almost there, folks. That's the common thread I'm hearing from every XRP analyst I follow. Now, before we dive deeper, let me be upfront. I'm not a financial expert. This isn't financial advice, and I'm definitely not telling you to buy or sell anything based on what I say, okay? Always do your own research. As I sit here recording this video on May 11th, 2025, XRP is trading at $2.40, while Bitcoin hovers just over $104,000, 0 cents. Basically flat over the past 24 hours. But it's not going to stay there for long. Something caught my eye this morning that's worth sharing. At 9:22 a.m. Central Time, analyst Will Clemente posted a Bitcoin price chart that grabbed my attention. He pointed out something interesting, saying, it feels like you're going to need a real tangible announcement on the China front to keep things moving here locally. The momentum behind Bitcoin seems to be stalling for the first time in a while, and Will hinted at the possibility of a retracement. This comes after Bitcoin's recent surge, getting tantalizingly close to its all-time high of around $18,000, 0 cents. Now, when he mentions the China front, he's talking about the ongoing tariff trade situation. The timing of his post is intriguing. He's essentially suggesting that market participants are collectively waiting for a solid reason, like good news on a potential trade deal, to push Bitcoin further. Without that spark, the market may hesitate to hit the gas pedal. Hours later, the news finally broke. And honestly, I've been saying this ever since the whole tariff drama kicked off. It was only a matter of time before things got resolved. All the fear, posturing, and chest puffing, classic negotiation theater. But here we are, folks, with the headline we've been waiting for. Late yesterday, USA Today reported, Trump officials say trade deal reached with China, but details remain unclear. So what does that mean? Well, while specifics are still under wraps, it seems both nations have reached some sort of agreement. Like it or not, that's where we're at. The Trump administration has made it clear some kind of deal is in place. Now, I'm not diving into the full article here, but it's worth noting that we've been promised a full briefing tomorrow morning, May 12th to be exact. Besant mentioned the White House plans to lay out all the details then. As a result, there's been a flood of chatter about the stock market. Some are shouting, it's going to soar tomorrow. Sure, but is worth remembering the stock market is still running on old school systems. None of that 24/7/365 action like crypto. So maybe they're right. Maybe it will climb. Who knows? That said, the S&P 500 has already made a pretty decent recovery. At its lowest, it dipped a little over 4,900, and now sitting somewhere 5,600 to 5,700. It's already a solid bounce. In fact, it's up roughly 11% from its lows, a huge move for the stock market. Sure, in crypto terms, that's like 5 minutes, but for the S&P 500, let's be real, that's a big deal. After hitting rock bottom, the markets bounce back. What does that tell you? Clearly, some investors had enough confidence to dive back in, and that's why we saw the rise. Makes sense, right? But here's the question. How much of this was already priced in? Now, I'm not saying the market won't keep climbing, but let's not forget that stocks and crypto often dance to the same beat. Both are risk on assets moving in sync. Take XRP, for example. Isn't it strange that despite some great news, the crypto market hardly blinked? Crypto trades 24/7, 365 days a year, yet nothing. No spike, no buzz, just crickets. The Kobasi letter highlighted this too, sharing a Bitcoin USD chart from this afternoon. Guess what? No reaction. Even as the US announced a trade deal with China. It's wild to think about. The stock market had some action, but crypto flatlined. We're just stuck in this sideways grind. Weird, right? Was this outcome already expected? Should we really be surprised? Well, tomorrow will tell us everything. Honestly, I won't be shocked if the market takes a leap upward. What's fascinating is how the crypto community seems, at least for now, to just wait and watch. We live in the age of instant information. News spreads in the blink of an eye. No need for some imaginary messenger pigeon delivering updates to Bitcoin and XRP holders. That's not how the game works. Yet, the market hasn't budged much, which is intriguing. Still, the bigger picture hasn't changed. An upward surge is coming. Global liquidity is surging, and history shows the crypto market, including XRP, tends to follow suit. Yesterday, I came across something worth sharing again. It's just that intriguing. There was a post from the blockchain backer that caught my attention. Given recent events, it feels timely to revisit it for anyone who missed it. Here's the scoop. The chart shows the crypto total market cap minus Bitcoin, so all the altcoins. But the real star of the show is the indicator at the bottom called the altcoin breadth flip signal, a tool created by the blockchain backer himself. Here's what he posted yesterday morning. The one-day time frame breadth indicator just flipped to the on position. Now, while it doesn't predict short-term momentum or whether prices might move sideways for weeks, here's the kicker. It's been nailing the bottom for over 5 years, including last September. Think about that, a track record over half a decade without a misstep. And now it just flipped to on. So even if there's a short-term dip, it's no reason to hit the panic button. Unless, of course, something major is actually breaking. But honestly, I don't see why that would be the case. Considering everything else happening in the world right now, the tariff fears seem to be fading if they haven't already. Markets are primed to move, and Monday's stock market action is shaping up to be fascinating. What's puzzling, though, is why crypto hasn't taken off yet. It makes me wonder, could the stock market stall too? You'd think if this wasn't already priced in, both markets would surge. So why isn't crypto running? The only explanation I can think of is that this may already be baked into the cake. But who knows? Maybe stocks take off tomorrow. What do you guys think? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'm not making any bets on this one. I'll be the first to admit I don't know for sure, but it's such an intriguing situation, right? Now stick with me because I've got some juicy XRP specific info you won't want to miss. I've got to share this first. Check out the Bitcoin USD chart from chart analyst Mustache. According to him, Bitcoin is on track to close the week with a bullish MACD cross, one of the strongest signals you can get right now. The last 2 times this happened, October 2024 and October 2023, both followed by massive crypto rallies. Seriously, my friends, doesn't the alignment of all these factors make you stop and think? The charts for Bitcoin look absolutely stellar. XRP is also shaping up to be a powerhouse. And on top of that, we've got all the macro level chaos, like the whole tariff drama, adding fuel to the fire. It seems like things are finally wrapping up, unless, of course, some last-minute disaster throws a wrench in the works. But honestly, it feels like we're heading toward a smooth wind down. Don't get me wrong, there are still deals to hammer out, and that could take some time. The details will tell the story. In theory, everything looks fine, but a few missteps could still spook the market. That said, I'd be shocked if China signed off on something that wasn't at least neutral or mutually beneficial. If it's coming together, it's probably something both sides can live with. But isn't it crazy how all these factors seem to align? Of course, global liquidity plays a role here too. It's all happening exactly as you'd expect, right on time. Coincidence? Maybe, or maybe not. This is incredible. I genuinely believe XRP is about to take off. If the market moves, you can bet XRP will outperform in a big way. I'm confident in that. Let's talk crypto market caps. Here's a look at the total market cap, excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum, known as Total 3. Chart analyst Malleus highlights something big. Supply has flipped into demand. That said, there's another supply zone above us, so some consolidation could happen first, likely as a bull flag before we see a powerful push to new all-time highs. The takeaway, even with some pauses, the outlook remains bullish. If the markets go wild tomorrow, crypto might just follow suit. It could be a game of catch up, who knows? But keep in mind, this was posted roughly 10 to 12 hours before the tariff news dropped, so if that shakes things up on Monday, cut the guy some slack. And hey, he never promised we'd need to wait for the market to move sideways first anyway. The main takeaway here, yep, the numbers are heading up. Altcoins, they're about to go absolutely bonkers. Here's a fun one for you. Chart analyst Mikey Bull Crypto shared an Ethereum USD chart, and guess what? Ethereum to $10,000, 0 cents, isn't off the table. Plenty of chart experts agree with him too. It's not as crazy as it sounds. That's just a little more than double the last market cycle high, which capped between $4,800, 0 cents, and $4,900, 0 cents per ETH. Now, here's why this gets me hyped. If Ethereum hits $10, 0 cents K, and XRP matches that market cap, you're looking at roughly $20, 0 cents per XRP. Think about it. Does that really sound so far-fetched? Not at all. I can't say for sure if it's going to happen, but it's far from impossible. And honestly, there are plenty of reasons to get excited about this. Think about it. Even if Ethereum simply returns to its all-time high, if XRP hits that same level, we're looking at around $10.00. That's solid double-digit price action right there. Now, imagine XRP not just matching ETH, but outperforming it entirely. Even if Ethereum falls short this cycle, which, let's be real, seems unlikely, I don't see it completely flopping. The difference is XRP feels poised to blow past it. Everything just seems to be lining up perfectly. For years, XRP faced relentless pressure, held back by a government-driven saga that felt more like fiction than fact. Meanwhile, Ethereum, after its meteoric rise last cycle, is clearly not the star of this one. It's just not. Even so, ETH's price took a nosedive, but has bounced back as expected. Honestly, the reversal was written all over the charts, and I've been saying so for ages. I haven't touched on this much in recent months, but here's a great post from chart analyst Ali Martinez on the XRP/USD chart. Every move unfolding feels perfectly aligned with reality, and I'm here for it. That's why I kick things off by sharing my thoughts on XRP's price potential, starting with ETH as a reference point. And when I see posts like the one on your screen from Ali Martinez, I can't help but think, yeah, that might just happen. He shared this intriguing XRP/USD chart and pointed out that if XRP's price is following a symmetrical triangle pattern, the target could hit $15.00. The chart traces the symmetrical triangle all the way back through 2 cycles, right to XRP's peak on January 4, 2018, the date of its previous all-time high. Of course, we've now got a fresh all-time high as of this January, breaking a 7-year drought. It's been a long wait, but worth it. When I look at this, I see how different chart analysts break things down, examining formations, metrics, and patterns to draw their conclusions. What's fascinating is how often they land in the same ballpark. Of course, there are outliers. On the conservative side, some predict XRP could peak around $8.00 to $10.00. Others are far more bullish, aiming for $30.00 or even $35.00. So maybe the truth lies somewhere in the middle. We'll see soon enough. But honestly, none of these projections seem far-fetched. If this alt season turns out to be less exciting than expected, the lower range makes sense. But if we see a flood of capital rushing in, those bold $30.00 plus predictions might just hit the mark. Time will tell. So if you had to take a guess, what do you think? Could it land somewhere in the middle? Honestly, who knows? But here's something interesting. Chart analyst Cryptolica has been hammering the same point home, and he's absolutely certain about it. His confidence is through the roof. Take a look at this XRP price prediction he's been sharing. He's calling for a move to $9.00, which, believe it or not, is one of the more conservative estimates out there. But hey, that's still big news. Now, not everyone agrees. Some analysts argue it all depends on how these formations play out. There's a strong path scenario and a weaker path scenario. Analyst Simca is one of those voices, adding nuance to the discussion. Check out this XRP/USD price chart he posted. I won't get into all the details here for the sake of time, but feel free to pause and dive into it. Here's the first chart he shared. I'm not going to dissect this one, but I thought it was worth passing along for you to analyze yourself. This is the key point about where he thinks XRP's trajectory is heading. Even on the weaker side, he's confident XRP could hit $8.00 this cycle. A prediction that's, relatively conservative, but he's not fully convinced that's the ceiling. There's a scenario where XRP smashes expectations and climbs closer to the $30.00 range. The possibilities are wide open, and the uncertainty is what makes this so intriguing. Somewhere between those figures seems realistic. Here's the truth. Nobody knows for sure, but looking at past trends, it's entirely reasonable to think XRP could land somewhere in that range. History has shown us how unpredictable and explosive crypto can be. That's the world we're in, and it's what makes this ride so exhilarating. If the alt season kicks off, XRP could very well hit those targets. That's my take. And here's a post from chart analyst Michael Van de Pa. Though, fair warning, this guy has a serious case of XRP obsession syndrome. He's no fan of XRP, yet he still shared this post with his 786,000 followers. His key takeaway: when prices go vertical, it's time to zoom out and look for higher time frame entry points. The same logic applies to XRP. He pinpointed $1.75 as a critical level for entries, and since then, it surged 50%. Now, all signs point to a push toward the all-time high. Even someone who openly dislikes XRP is admitting, yeah, another all-time high is coming. Price discovery mode. It's funny, though. He wasn't so confident last cycle. I can't recall everything he said back then, but let's just say he ended up with some egg on his face. For someone so well known in crypto, trashing XRP so hard only to see it thrive must sting a little. I've had decent success predicting prices for various coins, but for some reason, when it comes to XRP, the predictions always crash and burn. Are we just supposed to shrug and pretend we don't notice? You're a major voice in crypto, and we can't even point out, hey, you said this, and wow, were you off? Maybe a little bias slipped in. I had some fun calling that out. And to his credit, he took it in stride and replied in good faith. But let's be real, he did make some wild claims. Stuff like XRP is going to peak at 50 cents, and then boom, it shot to $2, 0 cents. Total facepalm moment. Ever since that episode, though, he's taken his XRP predictions a lot more seriously. Funny how a crowd of people shouting, hey, you were way off, can spark a change. Now, he's all aboard the XRP hype train, talking about higher targets. So credit where it's due. He adjusted, but yeah, we're aiming much higher now. No lowballing this time. But check this out. Here's a post from Chart Analyst Love Crypto. They said XRP is breaking out of daily Bollinger Bands and gearing up for its next leg to new all-time highs. Exciting, right? I find that metric fascinating, especially since I spent over half of 2024 diving deep into it. It all started in April with this gem from Charting Guy. Take a look. It's from April 16th, 2024, more than a year ago. He wrote, XRP monthly Bollinger Bands are at their tightest in history, 0.7 for the width. The previous tightest was 0.73 back in 2017, a month out, and he's already flashing the rocket ship emoji. Look at these blue lines. See how close they got? The Bollinger Bands were tightening. Flashback to 2017. What happened next? Boom, breadth exploded. Price didn't just climb, it skyrocketed. Absolute liftoff. Now, looking at the last cycle, the bands tightened again. Not record-breaking tight, but still enough to signal something big was brewing. Here's the catch. These bands don't tell you if the move will be up or down, but in a bull market, odds are it's hitting up. Last cycle, they not the tightest ever, but sure enough, it popped. Even with the SEC lawsuit looming, it hit $2.00. A solid run, no doubt. Then came April last year. Tightest bands in history. That was the clue. Something big was on the horizon. It took over half a year, but by November 2024, after the election, that's when it finally took off. If you look at a chart, 6 or 7 months might seem like a blip, just a tiny moment in time, but when you're living it, it feels like an eternity, doesn't it? Back then, it might have seemed endless, but now it's just a distant memory, barely even registering anymore. Funny how time works, right? So here's the thing. During that period, the Bollinger Bands hit their tightest point ever, and believe it or not, they just got tighter over the next 6 months. It was unprecedented. I kept pointing it out, saying, guys, this is massive. Something's going to happen. XRP was at its lowest price against Bitcoin in history. Literally, every time it's hit this level, it's signaled a bottom and a major move up. I was screaming it from the rooftops all year. This thing is going to take off. And guess what? It did. Big time. The chart analyst nailed it. History once again delivered. And now, Lev Crypto is sounding the alarm. It's happening again. The Bollinger Bands are tightening up, signaling another breakout. He's already saying XRP is ready to push to new all-time highs, and he's not alone in calling it. Meet Stephos Crypto, a poster chart analyst with an eye on the XRP/USD chart. The red lines? Those are Bollinger Bands. Notice how tight they were back in November before exploding outward. Now they're tightening again, hinting at another potential breakout. Stephos Crypto summed it up bluntly. F everyone bearish on XRP, just look at this. The Bollinger Bands labeled BB on the chart tell the story. They're squeezing in again. Not the tightest in history, but close enough. With a bomb graphic on his post, Stephos Crypto is signaling what he thinks is coming, another big move. Compared to November, and you can see why he's so confident. Do you see how it all connects now? That's exactly why I structured this video the way I did. Each piece of content, each detail carefully placed in order. We started with the big picture, the macro level stuff, like the major trade deal news with China. The specifics, well, they're expected Monday, and by the time you're watching this, you might already know. I, on the other hand, am eagerly waiting to see how this unfolds. And more importantly, how will the markets react? It's a mystery. Crypto, for example, didn't budge, which is surprising. You'd think prices would soar, right? But maybe, just maybe, it's already priced in. Is the market going to give us a small pop rather than a big bang? Who knows? But this is why I laid it all out the way I did, from the broader markets to Bitcoin's movements to Ethereum's trends, and ultimately what it could mean for XRP. There's a lot to unpack here. Let's see how this plays out. You'll love to see it. I mean, seriously, I can't wait to watch this all play out. As someone who's been tracking this daily, every single day for the past 7.5 years, and never once sold a single XRP, this is the most pumped I've ever been. I've got to say, as an XRP holder, I've never been this excited. The longer this journey goes on, the more everything seems to be falling into place exactly as I'd hoped. Sure, I couldn't predict every detail, but if you're looking at the big picture, at the key moments where everything should align, it's happening. It's all unfolding, just like we've talked about for years, exactly how we've hoped it would. And I'm convinced this momentum isn't stopping. One day you'll wake up and XRP will be ripping through the charts, melting faces, shattering expectations, and entering price discovery for the first time in over 7 long years. That day is coming, mark my words. Of course, I'm not a financial advisor. Don't buy or sell because of me. That'd be a terrible idea. But wow, I've never been this hyped